Hello, Steve Davis here. Welcome to the first of our 10th anniversary special episodes for the Adelaide Show podcast. Tonight goes right back to the beginning, which was 2013, August 29th to be precise, when Colin Richard, Brett Monten and I huddled around a very small desk in a very tiny room out the back of my place to record a wandering discussion that was dubbed as a conversation created in Adelaide, for Adelaide, but not always about Adelaide. The podcast back then was known as Another Boring Thursday Night in Adelaide. If you have only been with the Adelaide Show over the last 5 or so years, you would probably be unaware that this is how it all began. So you get a taste of that style, which was chatty. It was three guys. Sometimes if someone was away, Nigel would step in, who later became one of the stalwarts of the podcast. And you'll hear about from him in the next of the 10th anniversary special episodes. But tonight it is just that rambling, fun camaraderie of people gathering around a microphone or three and waxing lyrical. I hope you enjoy it. It's a different style to what we've been doing over the last few years, but it was lovely. It was like picking up with old friends. I hope you enjoy it along the way. There's some bad singing of iconic jingles and a few comments, including some innuendo that slips by to the keeper, which is what we were all about back in those early days. Enjoy.
Wave on waves, just got a band room. Adelaide, Adelaide, who landed here and made it their home. Adelaide, Adelaide, who 10-pound bombs to the refugees. Adelaide, Adelaide, who brings it down and Sudanese. Adelaide, Adelaide, who oh, little Adelaide, oh, Adelaide, who oh, little Adelaide, who.
In the spirit of reconciliation, the Adelaide Show podcast acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout South Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today.
Adelaide, Adelaide, Adelaide.
Hello, operator.
All right, that's all good, and I'll just get this recording for the...
What do you want to tell? Oh, you want to do levels?
We've done levels.
We have done levels.
Yes, I'm glad you're paying attention.
Good. Yes.
Just say that something again, Colin.
Hello, honky tonks.
There we go. Good. All right, I'll ride you throughout the recording. That didn't come out the right way, did it?
I'm sure it came out exactly as you meant it.
Okay, Brett, can I have one more from you, please?
One more from me, sure.
Okay. And one more. Oh, that's why. Hello, testing 1, 2. All right, good. Ready?
Born ready.
Okay, here we go. In mid-2013, I spoke with Colin Richard, about starting a podcast. And he said, yes. And shortly thereafter, I spoke to Brett Monten, and he said, yes. And the driving themes for me to get involved in this thing were frustration over the lazy, unfunny jokes and barbs that interstaters and even some locals made about Adelaide being boring, a desperate need I had to get out of the rut of working 7 days a week, and my unquenchable love for the art of radio. It's now 10 years later, and we've got the band back together. Colin and Brett, welcome back to one of the rooms where the good stuff used to happen.
Thank you very much, Steve.
And that was the voice of Brett.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Steve. Lovely to be here and lovely to see you both.
It's lovely.
It is.
We've got so much to relive, to go back 10 years.
10 years.
10 years. Now, I've got my bits off my thoughts about why I started this podcast. Colin, what was your driving force?
Oh, I mean, look, similar. There's always a performance aspect to, and I think I can relate to you with that, Steve, your love of radio. And I'm pretty sure I'd recently been on radio with Michael Smith on the ABC.
Oh, there's the first name drop for the afternoon. There you go.
So Michael invited me on to talk about the job I was doing, or had been doing, at a major hospital mortuary. Mm-hmm. I think you and I got together. In fact, it may have been because you listened to that.
Oh.
And we had a chat about you wished me well before I went and did that. And then
I was dead keen to listen to
yes. Yes. I'm trying to think of something that...
I was hoping he was going to invite me on, but I got stiffed.
You got stiffed.
As happens in a mortuary.
Yes.
That's right. That's right. The silence was always golden. Actually, I was just trying to think of the... Because Michael said, can you think of a song to, we can play as you come on or leave? And they had I can't remember what it was, so maybe I can dig that out for you. But because it had to be related to the topic, even cryptically, but not.
Cryptically.
But not. Yes, that's right. Yes.
Wasn't any Alice Cooper creeping in there? Or?
No, it was. I can't think what it was. I wasn't familiar with the song at first, but it needed to be appropriate, but not a cliche that we've all used before.
Cold Ethel would have been a good one.
How does that go?
Oh, it's...
One thing I miss is cold Ethel and a skeleton kiss. We met last night, making love by the refrigerator light. Ethel, let me squeeze you in my arms. Ethel, come and freeze me with your charm.
Cold Ethel, it's an Alice Cooper song.
Oh, okay.
Wow, I was thinking Good Day Young, which is Billy Joel.
No, this is a little bit darker.
Is it? Yeah. Okay. All right. But you don't remember what he went with?
No,
Lost.
I will dig it out at home. That I recorded the experience and kept that, so I'll dig it out.
1300 222 891 if you'd like to join us. 4:17. My guest in the studio, Colin, telling us what it's like to work in a mortuary. Stephen's given us a buzz. Good afternoon, Stephen.
Oh, g'day. Again, it's a bit of a macabre question. How long can a body stay in a fridge before nature takes its course? I used to be a butcher, and I know meat can't last forever in a fridge.
It's another good question. We certainly had, as I said earlier, some that in excess of a month. Deterioration and decomposition does, of course, take place, and the fridge is just about sort of trying to suspend that as much as you can and slow it down. I'm not exactly sure of the medical facts, the scientific facts of how long, but we certainly... It also depended on the particular person, because I knew bodies that had been there for a few days, which had decomposed quite a lot, versus one that was there for in excess of a month, and she was still quite intact. So I can't give you a scientific answer, but it certainly varies from person to person.
Stephen, thank you for your call. Would you use some sort of chemicals? Because traditionally it was formaldehyde in the old days that was used to preserve bodies and body parts. Is that sort of still used today? Certainly not within the mortuary that I was in, because it was really just the storage between... I mean, usually a quick, skip between passing away in hospital and then moving on to being buried or cremated. So with us, it was all fairly natural, and people just were lying there in the cold fridge.
So it was the performance thing was part of the drive.
I enjoyed having a chat and on the radio.
I always feel like getting bickies out when you come around.
Oh.
Like the yo-yo biscuits.
Well, they were in the news just the other day.
Were they?
Were they?
They were. So by the time this goes out, it'll be 6 weeks ago they were in the news, because something about, because they're a South Australian delicacy, according to the article. And look, we know they're from South Australia originally, but it was talking about the fact that the other states have now cottoned on. And I mean, I thought they'd cottoned on a few years ago. It was some little blurb in that local Adelaide newspaper, and saying, I think it was perhaps just to fill a few inches.
Yes. Well, Well, when you have to, you have to.
That's
Were
right.
they saying
And you might as well do it with a yo-yo.
Were they saying they just wanted to sell more of them around the country? There was demand elsewhere. Is that what they were saying?
It was referring to the fact that, they're often found in little country towns close to the border, not so much the other capital cities, and it's the South Australians who are sneaking them through.
They throw the yo-yos out and then they keep coming back. They throw them out and they come back. They throw them out and they come back.
Actually, in the annals of our past, we once sang the yo-yo theme.
We did, didn't we?
I might, if I can remember, I'll try and stitch that in about now in the post-production.
Cows go moo and the bees are all buzzy and they're both in on its yo-yo. Oh, this is recording too, isn't it?
Oh, come on. Oh, this is recording, isn't it? Says Colin. As if.
Stand by, gentlemen. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Clap.
And it's not the bees are buzzy.
No, I changed the words.
He's doing it on purpose, Steve.
Oh, you were trying to
I
make
said
that
that
up.
the cows
Give it
go
a program.
moo and the bees are all buzzy and they're... Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
We should sell that to local kindergartens.
Yeah.
With Uncle Colin.
Not him again.
Not interview. I don't know if it's the same for you, but certainly Colin and I, on one of our very early episodes when we started talking about yo-yos, just spontaneously erupted into singing the yo-yo song. Have you got that indelibly ingrained in your mind, Amanda?
Well, do you know, I hadn't, and when you were talking about the yo-yo jingle, I was thinking, what are they talking about? But as soon as you said the lines, bees make honey and there's honey in yo-yo, and it's yo-yo biscuits, it just all popped back.
Bees make honey and there's honey in yo-yos.
And it's yo-yo biscuits.
Cows
Make milk and the milk becomes butter and they're both
in honest yo-yo.
Eggs by the dozen and runny honey from busy bees.
Biscuits
like
Grandma used to bake.
butter, eggs, milk and
honey. Biscuits delicious to fill in up the dishes. And it's yo-yo biscuit.
Goodness, what a biscuit. Why did you come on board, Brett?
I think you and I and perhaps Nadia were having a discussion at some stage prior. I saw a set of coattails and just jumped on. It wasn't...
Why not?
I don't think I was that forefront in building the idea. I just thought it'd be a laugh. Let's do it. I'd love to do it.
One of the things that you did gift us in the early days was the theme song
No, that's right.
for what was then called Another Boring Thursday Night in Adelaide.
It was, wasn't it? Can I just jump in too and say that I may have met Brett down the track anyway, but if it wasn't for the podcast, I may not have met Brett.
Oh.
So I have the podcast to thank for meeting this
Didn't
gent.
know each other beforehand.
No, we didn't.
When you
So
write,
it's an introduction service as well.
well, it is. When you
Swipe
write your memoirs from your podcasting years, you could, How I Met Brett.
How I met Brett.
I reckon that's got a ring to it.
Will it get a whole chapter? Or just a subtitle? What goes wrong in my life? Subtitle, How I Met Brett.
Yeah. No, I actually remember because it was in the other studio.
Yes.
I actually do remember shaking your hand for the first time.
Well, there you go.
Oh. Was it warm and clammy? Was it sort of cool and strong?
It was warm and welcoming.
Are we talking the room or me?
Both. That room we originally recorded in, which is a little outdoor kitchen that our house has, is now the cat room. Our cats live there.
The cats do a podcast out of there.
This is probably a good time, as good a time as any, to remember that we used to do the South Australian Drink of the Week. I have never forgotten the wine that we launched this podcast with, because it was a 2004 Coonawarra Family Reserve from Highbank. And if you remember, I had trouble with the cork.
I do remember.
Yes, yes.
I'm glad you remember, Brett, because you gave me the most curry over it. There was talk about rush out and get a sieve.
I remember at the time, because I think I came in a little bit late and I thought that a yo-yo biscuit had fallen into the bottle.
Because of all the crumbs.
So, yes, hopefully next week we shall have a theme.
And one of the things we shall be doing every week is tasting, sampling and commenting upon a lovely South Australian wine. So the one I'm going to open for you tonight comes from the Coonawarra. And knowing my luck, I've actually picked one that's cork. So we're risking this live audio opening a bottle. There's the capsule coming off. This is the Coonawarra wine that we're enjoying tonight, or soon be enjoying, from Coonawarra Winery down there in the southeast. How's that sound? You don't hear this very often these days, do you? That could almost be the South Australian national anthem.
It could be. That could be our theme song.
Just done to musical corks. And you won't believe this. I've taken a wine from the cellar. It's a 2004, and I've got crumbly cork. I hope this is not an omen for this podcast. Let me just fish this out.
Did you say, let me fist this out?
Let me fish this out.
Sorry. Just starting on a high.
I'll go and get a sieve from the kitchen.
It's just, we might end up with a...
Push it in, Steve. Push it in.
I have completely ruined this. This is why Adelaide's not boring. This is why Adelaide's not boring, because every now and then things don't go as planned. If I push this in, which is going to be dangerous now... Oh no, here we go. We're fine. We're about to taste it. Are we ready to taste this?
We are.
Are you game? All right. This is from the Highbank Vineyards. Dennis from Highbank's going to love us completely ruining his wine.
So, Steve, while you're pouring, can you just... Oh, my God. Listeners, what we've got is a dribble coming out of the top of the wine bottle and more cork than wine.
That's why I gave it to Colin first.
This is Colin's one. Because he likes something to chew at the bottom.
Yes. Good. You get your roughage in you.
Looks delicious, Steve.
Mm-hmm. Except what I'm going to do is Dennis Weiss, who's the winemaker, I caught up with him in the car park of Penfolds McGill Estate through the week. And I
happened to be hanging around.
And you walk up and he goes...
Hey, bud.
Near the dumpster.
Want to buy some wine?
He calls you into the bushes and flogs his gear. But we had pre-arranged. I think he was then going in to partake of some Penfolds. But I've got in my hands...
You stayed in the bushes.
I did. A 2016 of the same wine.
Oh.
Wow. So, and... Heaven forbid, I was hoping that he'd gone to capsule. But it's another cork, so here we go.
Do we need to film this?
It is being filmed.
Oh, lovely.
It is being filmed. I should have mentioned, you're being filmed. Yeah. Here we go. So far, what's this bit called? What's the wrapper called?
It's the foil, isn't it?
The foil?
Does it have a real name?
I don't know. Maybe it's the capsule.
The bit on the top? Or the whole thing?
No, just the foil sleeve that goes over the top of the one. I should know that.
It does have a name.
It does, doesn't it?
Let's call it Henry for now.
Okay. So
hey, Siri.
Yes. I've just...
The recording's just stopped. What did you do, Colin?
Of course.
Here we go. Here, let's get the sounds again, too, because that was good.
Oh.
Sounds like me getting up in the morning, actually.
Yeah, Snap, Crackle and Pop used to be the breakfast cereal. Now it's the sound of me getting up.
All right. Do you reckon that's about right? Here we go. I'm going to do this in 2 stages. Here goes the first one. Oh, gee, Dennis, these corks are soft. Good quality cork, that's what it is. By the way, he's in the Coonawarra Roadshow going around Australia at the moment.
Is it cork?
It's cork. It feels like cork. There we go.
How does he do the little writing down the side of the cork?
Well, very carefully. So he's got a lovely cork, and it's got Highbank written down the side.
Is that like Blackpool Rock? That if you cut the cork, it's got Highbank
all the way through.
All the way through it.
Well, you can take it home and.
Okay.
All right. Who wants to have some?
Oh, certainly.
Who would say no?
I've got the dribbles sorted.
And that's
Oh, there's more. I'm going everywhere. I think I'm just excited that we're all here to... Oh, heck, I accidentally put some more in my glass. Oops, and accidentally some more. How's your looking?
That's
You're
fine.
right.
I'll save some for you.
So, gentlemen, one thing we did start doing was toasting our late patron, Queen Adelaide. So would you raise your glasses... To the Queen.
To the Queen.
To the Queen.
And all who sailed in her.
Yes. Oh, yes, I'd forgotten about that. All right, let's have a taste. This is the 2016 Coonawarra Family Reserve handmade Cabernet Sauvignon. Oh.
Now, what does handmade wine mean?
Our vines are hand-pruned in winter, hand-picked at vintage and grown without the use of chemical fertilisers, herbicides, insecticides, or Colin Richard. Our wine is hand-plunged in open fermenters, producing a distinctive soft texture, which is gently enhanced by using only the finest French oak barrels for 20 months in the wine aging process. We offer this elegant handmade wine to you with pride.
Lovely. So hand-plunged, they've got a big vat that they do the poles in.
Yes, big poles.
Like they do at McGill Estate.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they've got a little hand plunging, but I don't think they would hand press them.
I was hand plunged once, never again.
Never again? All right. Now, let's have a... Well, it's actually good that it matches what they do at McGill Estate, seeing that's where I bought this wine. I think this needs to open up just a little bit in the glass.
It's a little bit cold.
It is. And 2016, so what's that? 9 years old.
7.
Or 7, depends. Are you using...
Your metric system, aren't you?
Yes, exactly.
It's nice and soft, though. Even as we're drinking it now, it is nice and soft, isn't it?
Very soft tannins. But they're a little bit like, in the morning, everything sort of is shrunken. Like you feel a bit closed.
The grapes are often tightly together, aren't they, in the mornings?
Yeah. Especially the cold mornings.
Yes.
See, it's already starting to open up. It's like probably a modern diesel vehicle that you don't have to leave turning over for ages.
You don't need to set the glow plugs on before you open it.
That's right. Look at the legs. Look at the legs on that glass. No, not mine, Colin. In the glass. This must...
So
I haven't actually checked the alcohol. This is at least 14.5, I would have thought.
Because I think you taught me 10 years ago that, that's the alcohol.
15.
That is the alcohol running down
it's
the...
It's a sign of the alcohol, yes. The colour, this is at the crimson end of the red spectrum to my eye.
Or the red end of the crimson spectrum. It's a nice colour.
Oh.
There's some expert commentary from me. It's a nice colour.
Thank you, Colin. Would you do your lounge in this?
Well, I've been so drunk that I have done a few walls from time to time. This is actually the first red I've had since I did paint some walls. After a night of too much.
You're always a man of great temperance.
I am.
But just not that particular night.
No.
Okay.
No.
Brett, what are you getting on your palate?
Fruit chocks.
Fruit chocks,
No, it's lovely. You're right. It is a nice and smooth one. It's not as Cabernets often are. I'm going to say cigar box.
Oh, now, that's ironic, given in episode 1 you just chastised me for being a wine wanker.
That's actually where I got it from, Stephen.
From me. Well, I was about to say the nose and the aroma in my mouth is violets. I'm getting violets. Beautiful. Mm-hmm. Talcum, almost like violet talcum. That's very nice. And it settles nicely on the tongue, not as drying out as some cabs are, but it soaks up the loose juices. All right. So
I have a question out of curiosity. It's a Cabernet?
Yes.
But it doesn't say that on the front?
Doesn't it? No, it doesn't.
So I'm curious about what do you do if you're looking for a wine and it doesn't say specifically on the front?
I always look at the back.
Look at the back. There we go. Send your questions in to the Adelaide Show and we'll endeavour to answer them.
Yes. All right. Well, I think this is actually a really nice bottle of wine.
It really is. I'm quite enjoying it.
So it's classy. So it's suitable for this particular production.
Well,
all that's left for me to say is the 2016 Highbank Coonawarra Family Reserve Single Vineyard is the South Australian drink of the week.
Cheers.
Hi, this is Joey Moore.
G'day, I'm Keith Conlon.
Hi, I'm Graham Goodings. You're listening to The Adelaide Show. I know you'll enjoy it.
Now, boys, I want to come back to the theme song. Can any of you remember? Because remember, you might remember this, Colin. Brett was very happy to tell us he had great musical stocks. And in a head of steam on the first episode, he said, I will create a theme song for you. which
Did we not have one?
No, I found a bit of generic music.
Oh.
And we thought, fantastic. And then episode 2
that's
came.
when we...
Did we have a theme song episode 2? No, we didn't.
It took a while, I think.
Episode 3 was... No. Any guess how many episodes it took before we had our theme song?
6?
Higher?
10?
Higher?
To be fair, I don't remember banging my drum quite so hard about my musical prowess with creating songs.
Episode 11. It was episode 11. And it was a piece of great anticipation for us.
It was the great unveiling.
Yes.
Actually, I do remember that we didn't have one. I mean, you may be surprised that I was a bit confused just then because it shows that I haven't listened to the first few episodes in preparation for coming in today. But I deliberately didn't listen so that I could pluck things from my... And obviously I've plucked the wrong... Because, I wouldn't have guessed that we were that far in before we... But I do remember now that we didn't have a theme song at the time.
I'd forgotten.
Yeah.
It was a bit of jovial hijinks for many episodes.
Yes.
10 to be, in fact. But it was worth waiting for because you pulled a rabbit out of the hat.
I think gradually extracted is probably better than pulled, seeing as it took 11 weeks to do it.
Well, exactly.
I massaged a rabbit out of the hat.
I'm not sure what sounds worse, pulling a rabbit or massaging one out of the hat.
You have to ask the rabbit.
Well, that is true. But it was worth waiting for.
Thank you.
It was beautiful. I remember you thrust a microphone in our faces, Colin and me, one night, because we all sang this together, chorus, we all sang together.
We did. We did.
And you did remarkably well, both of you.
I remember laying down part of the track at home, the
Adelaide, 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 Adelaide.
Yeah.
There you go. And which comedian was it who called Adelaide Adelaide here? That was
it Billy Connolly?
Billy Connolly, wasn't
Billy
it?
Connolly.
With the it sounds like a yodel.
That's it.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
One of the favourite things, because I've been re-listening to the early episodes, was all the memories of Adelaide from Uncle Colin, who used to have Adelaide's Yesterdays.
That's right.
It was called.
Yes.
A couple of things that stuck out at me that you mentioned. You reminded us that there was once in Adelaide a cinema called the Roma Cinema. Do you recall that at all?
No, I don't. I remember the car park.
Hello.
The Hungry Jack's, now the Hungry Jack's car park, and the
hotel that used to be there.
The hotel that used to be there, and it was it Cox Foy's or Foy's and Foy and Gibson's, whichever variation of that. Cinema. It does ring a bell. Was that when I was I talking about some of the old films that they showed, which were
and the Roma, of course, was an adult cinema.
Oh, now I remember it.
Oh, great.
Yes.
I remember seeing the ads in the paper.
Yes, yeah.
Like growing up in the gig guide, the Thursday Advertiser had the gig guide, and they have ads for the Roma Cinema.
Yeah.
There we go.
With a silhouetted lady on it.
See, so many of
Wow,
these...
that's quite a vivid recollection.
As a teen, what do you do? In the 70s?
Yeah, so many of the old Adelaide things seem to be just on the periphery of our... not our existence, but our
awareness.
Like they were just there and being phased away as we came into teenage and adult.
I wonder if every generation says that though.
Probably.
The generation before us said, "Oh yeah, this used to happen and this building used to be here." I found out there used to be a tram bridge over on Hawker Street where Park Terrace is.
Really?
There used to be a bridge there. And there was a tram and a tram line which came into the city.
Oh. Hang on. Hawker Street.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm thinking of Hawker's Corner. We're not talking about Hawker's Corner.
You know where the Big Dip is coming out of Memorial Drive onto Hawker Street?
Memorial Drive, yes.
There used to be a bridge over the top.
I never knew.
And a tram line.
I've got a picture of an old tram coming along there. So where the bus would stop now, there's a tram. But I'm not sure whether it's possibly after the bridge, but certainly in that position, because that's the little bit just down from where in North Adelaide only buses can come through.
Oh, yeah.
That little bit where they don't want anyone to And I was dared once, go on, just go in, go through there, go through there. I said, no, you can't, you're not allowed. Go through there. Well, I went through there and the police stopped me. So if anyone ever dares you to do anything, there's a lesson not to do it.
Well, someone who came onto this podcast many years later was Ralph Hadzik, who used to be Fat Cat. And he also used to have a chauffeur company, and he had a bus.
Yes.
A 12 or even a slightly bigger seater bus. Mm-hmm. He drove on that road, and a police officer pulled him over and said, you can't be here. He said, why not? He says, buses only. He said, I'm a bus. And the policeman said, no, you're not like one of the STA buses as they would have been back then. And he was right. Ralph was right. It doesn't specify.
So they changed the signs.
Yeah, I think they. Yep,
there you go. Probably because of Ralph.
Yes,
he does have
like
that.
The O-Bahn.
Oh, it says no Ralph allowed? No?
Yeah, it doesn't say no Ralph allowed, but I'm pretty sure it's very clear that it's just the O-Bahn enabled buses that are allowed down there.
Wow. That's actually just to stop some of their own bus drivers, I suppose.
Yeah.
Having a cheeky shortcut.
Yes.
Because of that, of course, the O-Bahn is another thing Adelaide is renowned for, people going on that O-Bahn in their vehicles.
Well, that is true.
Usually Victorians.
Yes.
And it's what, once a year? Twice a year?
Well, I think we've had a little bit of an upsurge in recent times, but I mean, lockdowns and whatever, I suppose, is people want a bit of excitement now that they're back allowed out in the streets.
When we were talking about the Roma before, I just want to go back.
That's right, yes.
Brett had vivid recollections. Amazing what the imagination can do. But you mentioned looking in the gig guide, which reminded me that I think there's a reference to that in the Redgum song that our podcast was named after, because Redgum had one more boring Thursday night in Adelaide. And I reckon he said, look through the entertainment pages of the local paper. And just in case anyone missed this story back in 2013, we before Brett offered kindly to make a theme song for us, I had pursued John Schumann.
I remember.
To see if we could use the opening, I think, 34 seconds.
Yeah, it wasn't much, was it?
And he said, look, I'd love to, but I don't own the rights, so you've got to talk to the company in Sydney. I'm thinking EMI, but it might not be. It's a similar one. And do you remember what we were told? Can you remember the price we were given?
No, I don't.
I don't remember specifically the price, but it was one look at it and...
$1,500 per year to use 34 seconds of a song that was not necessarily a big hit.
Is there some kind of attribution thing like sampling length of time where you can use things in shows if it's less than a certain amount of time?
I work on the assumption that's the case, but I don't think a theme song would be within the fair use, because I think for discussion, although I did interview John Schumann last year before, and I said, I'd really love to play one of his songs, I forget which one now. He said, play it. I said, what? He said, I'm giving you permission. And he said, if they come after you, let me know. There you go.
Oh, well, it's one more boring Thursday night in Adelaide. And it looks like everybody must have died. There's no one on the streets and nothing on TV. Well, I think I'll go and burn my TV guide.
Interesting to note that Steve asked John Schumann if he could do it on day one of the podcast, and it took 10 weeks and 6 days for us to find out that we couldn't. So, 11th week, I delivered.
That's right. And how much did you end up paying for Brett's theme song?
Yeah, good question, Colin.
That's a great question.
And where is the cash? 10 years.
So the next topic that I've got down here, actually, that's a good question. He's repaid with love every time I play it. And wine every time I play it. I want to point your attention to the little balls that I've got in front of me.
Oh, yes, I've been
They are
sampling
little.
them.
Yes.
They are little.
It's a little bowl of fruit chocks. Now, the reason we have these is I wanted a little bit of South Australianness for us to nibble on through the recording. My first choice, though, was to get some Kytons Lamington.
I was in the shops yesterday and was almost going to. I wanted 2 packets, and there was only one packet there, so I didn't get them.
Well, here's what I got this morning. I went to Drake's at Newton, because that's where I always get my Kytons from. I went to the shelf, which actually has, in the slightly chilled area, which is where they keep the lammies.
Yes.
It's you all over, isn't it? Just slightly chilled.
Yeah, I was relaxed, had my sunglasses on inside. And they had the chitons labelling on the front of the front of the shelf, but there were no chitons there. It was a selection of Balfour's goodies.
Read in the paper the other week, Balfour's is now Western Australian owned.
And is it the Mrs. Max Pies people?
I'm not sure which.
I think you're right. Yes, it's certainly one of the pie people. I think it is Mrs. Max.
But it sort of slipped under the radar. I don't remember seeing it heralded from the news. Oh, I suppose it's Melbourne news now anyway, isn't it? But it wasn't the great tub thumping that would have happened 10 years ago.
No.
But look what's happened. They've usurped South Australia's chitons from their little shelf space at Drake's. That's a bit sad. I'll have to let Sharon and Darren know about that.
Oh.
That's why we've got fruit chocks. I've just worked my way down the list. And one thing I was trying to find were polywaffles. Because I don't know if you remember.
I read in the paper the other day.
Well, if we go right back to when us three were there, was when polywaffles was... No, it was they had been stopped for a while, and we met someone who used to work in the polywaffle factory. Was it you, Brett, who hooked us up with the polywaffler?
We had a lovely person come on and talk to us about the machine.
Yes.
And the reason they stopped was that they retired the machine because it was single purpose for polywaffles.
Yes.
And they couldn't make cylindrical chocolates with any other machine.
Michelle, one of the things that puzzled me as I was doing my research on the demise of the polywaffle was one of the things the Nestle spokesperson said was it was actually costing them too much to make. They were actually costing them more to make than they were making money and selling it. And part of it was the technology breaking down. Now, you mentioned in our little discussion there was an odd piece of machinery they had to use for the polywaffle. Could you take us through that? What was it? Some special machine that was only used for polywaffles?
It was. I remember when we used to try and use the machine itself. You found it would always break down. And so, you'd sort of get, this is the wrapping side, I should say. Once it's cooked and all the rest and gone past that conveyor and the chocolate's on it and it's set, to then actually wrap the polywaffle and use that machine, it was not like the other machines in the factory, right? Because I also worked on violet crumble. So it seemed to have a more up-to-date machine, whereas the polywaffle was this clunker. And, you'd kind of look at it and you go, oh, God, it's old and it would forever break down.
So what was difficult about wrapping a polywaffle that wouldn't let them use, say, the violet crumble machine? They weren't that different.
Yeah, I know. I think about that at times because my brain would sort of tick over and I'd think, but couldn't you do that in that machine and what have you? But for some reason, it was a shape. I think it come back to the shape. Because it was a round shape, you could always work with square shapes, which you can measure exacting, but with a round one, it was difficult. So, you try and get the right lengths and width. It was never always easy. So they'd kind of, they'd cook make the polywaffle and, take 2 or 3 days to actually wrap what they've made.
So the shape, which turned out to be its ultimate downfall, also kept it in our popular folklore for a long time. Yeah, because I had no idea. I think I've lived in a bubble all my life because
what is that?
You and also my sister-in-law Nicole from Port Lincoln said when I mentioned we were going to be talking to you, she said, "Oh, you have to remember the Caddyshack movie when they threw a polywaffle in the swimming pool and everyone thought it was a number 2.
A doo-doo.
Yeah, because it wasn't really a polywaffle because it's in America, but
exactly.
It led to people doing that prank in Australia. I've never seen that prank.
Haven't you?
And now you never will.
And so 2020, Roburn Men's, they got a special small business grant from the government.
Federal government, wasn't it?
Partly to bring these things back. It's 2023, not a sausage, not a chocolate-covered sausage in sight.
It was in the paper again just recently, and the explanation is that they are having to custom make that piece of machinery, and I think it was due to the pandemic and the after effects of the pandemic.
Supply chain.
They're still working with supply chain issues to try and get that up and running. So
you were going to have polly waffles, but back in that episode, we actually made our own polly waffles. Oh,
yes.
Well, I did with my daughters.
Yes, he did. You did.
I chopped the end off those lovely waffle cones.
Yes.
Dipped them in chocolate and then shoved marshmallow inside.
I don't remember that.
And then coated them. There's a photo I shared today of the three of us all shoving polly waffles, homemade polly waffles, in our gobs.
And another icon has recently gone, hasn't it? Another iconic chocolate bar, just in the last few weeks.
Our Fantails stopped.
That's what it is.
And is that Nestle? Are you allowed to say Nestles anymore? I still say Nestles.
Do you really?
Nestle, I think, have said they are, and I think they claim a downturn in sales.
It was very defensive. They said, a lot of people are going to cry about it, but that was because it's something which is going away. They actually don't care.
But see, when they came out, though, movie stars were truly iconic. Great work by the production houses, the studios, and much more limited channels to enjoy movies, and so you could build a star up to be huge. Now they're dime a dozen, they come and go. There's a lot of TV stars being shunted off as stars. So I think the quality, I mean, who cares about some of the people featured in the Fantails of recent years?
I used to love reading them as a kid, but they were the old Hollywood people.
No, I still remember reading them, but usually they were still the old Hollywood people.
Yes, Errol Flynn.
Yes.
Oh, I got Errol Flynn.
Yeah, or Clark Gable.
Yes.
Yes. And you'd often get partway through and it would run out because the wrapper finished.
That's it.
But you'd always have one whole one at least.
Yes,
Yeah, Errol Flynn's were always longer. But
yes. But do you remember cobbers?
Yes.
When you were a kid, you get them from the deli, 20 cents worth of, or 5 cents worth of cobbers, and it was a bag full.
And just in case you don't remember, a cobber was a cube of caramel covered in chocolate.
Well, I mean, I reference it because people online with the Fantails discussion have said, it's just cobbers. And a lot of people say, no, they're not the same as cobbers.
Oh, yes,
and I don't
were.
think, I don't know.
I think they were.
Well, they weren't chocolate coated though, were they?
Yes, they were, yeah.
Yep. Gee, you haven't had a Fantail for a long time.
But I think, cobbers have been gone for years, I think.
I haven't seen
that's not true. In places like you could still get cobbers, I believe, in
the oldie lolly
Campbell's
shop.
Cash and carry, possibly in those old lolly shops as well, but like cash and carry type situations where delis would buy.
I bet they're not the same.
I don't think they're the same either.
What about clinkers? Have they still got them?
I haven't seen a clinker for...
Never ate a clinker. I didn't like them.
I loved the clinkers.
I wasn't a fan, but yeah.
What were they? A hard sort of...
They had like a coloured... They were different colours inside.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it was made of.
That's why I didn't like them, because it wouldn't be healthy then.
Because it was coloured.
Yes. So if you're going to have confection, look at this. The fruit chocolate's brown, which is a natural chocolate colour, and the inside is natural peach, admittedly drenched in sugar, but natural.
Natural sugar.
Natural sugar. Yeah. So that's very similar to how Adelaide's Yesterdays used to go. We would meander through some thoughts of the past.
With the Roma Theatre, did you have an address there of where it was? Did you pick that up? Because I remember there was a place in Rundle Mall. There was just about every street I think had a theatre. But it just, when you were saying about it, and I remembered the movies that were coming out of there, I wondered, was it one
on
of
Hindley Street?
Yeah, was it Hindley Street or in the mall? I wasn't sure.
I'm thinking with my 13-year-old memory.
Down Hindley Street.
Not a memory of a 13-year-old, not 13 years ago.
Yes.
It might have been somewhere between the Fair Lady and Morford Street.
21A Gilbert Place.
Yeah. Where the pancake kitchen is.
Yeah.
So it is round there, isn't it? Yes, yeah.
So you could have your pancakes and eat them too if you went to see a movie down there.
You could.
I remember seeing the ads in the paper, but obviously I was too young to partake in such cinematic filth.
Well, that was before we had filth alternatives being shouted at us from every media outlet we could.
Oh yes, like Twitter. You've got direct links to hardcore pornography on Twitter.
You obviously follow different people than I do, Stephen.
Well, no, they follow me. That's the thing. But I think there's a link here between adult cinema and fantails. And I'm not talking about sticky delights in a dark environment. What I'm talking about is you've got information of trivia on any movie star anywhere in the palm of your hands. So you don't have to be sitting in the cinema to want an urge scratched. You can just go on, tap a few keys and say, oh, who was Errol Flynn? And you've got it. You don't have to buy a lolly packet and hope that Errol Flynn's got your number. I wonder if there's something in that.
Maybe. I can't say that I ever bought fantails to try and learn about a particular movie star.
No.
I would have gone to a different source, I think.
Yeah.
It was more the surprise of opening a fantail. Oh, it's Clark Gable.
Right. Well, I used to get fantails for the lollies. And I would definitely not read the wrapper.
And those old ads in the newspaper for some of the saucy films, Bedroom Mazurka used to be in there quite a lot.
Mm-hmm. Good movie.
But I remember when I was a kid, Bedroom Mazurka was a bedding linen shop.
That's what I thought you were talking about.
No, this was, I think it was a movie called Bedroom Mazurka.
Stephen's obviously seen it. Because you just said good movie.
It was a sleeper.
Yes. Yes. Only came up every now and again. But yeah, I think mazurka is a dance. And I think, so that bedroom mazurka play on because I saw it in one of the old ads when I was doing the Adelaide Yesterdays, and I remembered it as a bedding shop from when I was a kid, bedroom mazurka.
So that means then, if that was some cryptic reference to a naughty entanglement, and they named a shop after it, it's like having a bed, bath and towel shop called Menage a Trois or something.
Well, which came first, though?
Well, that's the question. We've got, I don't know. Here we go, 1970, Bedroom Mazurka. I've got the IMDb. Do you want to hear what was in the movie?
Oh, yes.
Hang on, I'll just get a fantail.
Max is a popular teacher at a public school who needs a new schoolmaster. Max needs the schoolmaster? Anyway, in an effort to entice him to take the vacated position, the boys hire a stripper to seduce the sexually inexperienced scholar. Wow. And there was someone else, the rector of the exclusive boy private boarding school, Krasbergard, has been appointed Minister of Culture. He therefore needs to find a replacement. The choose falls on the young lector Mikkelsen, whom all of the students adore, particularly for his view that girls should be allowed as well. So I think that's where the recipe for mazurkiness starts. You should see the pictures. Have a look at, there's the title. There is you're looking at the picture on the poster from between two legs of a lady.
1970s porn.
This is.
Is that about as hard as it got?
That's a bit James Bond, that poster.
It does look like that, doesn't it?
A little bit like that, yeah. Just while you were looking that up, I did check mazurka. I think I said it's a dance. It's actually a Polish musical form based on stylised folk dances in triple metre.
Oh, in triple metre. So menage a trois was
can you have a mazurka?
You could go berserker for a mazurka. So horizontal folk dancing, I think, is the takeaway from all of that.
Well, at the moment, I can tell you Bedroom Mazurka is not available for streaming in Australia, just in case you were partially curious.
I'm listening to Another Boring Thursday Night in Adelaide.
Stories from the Street was a little thing we used to do, and my favourite was one that Brett served up. Catherine Lambert.
Lovely Catherine, yes.
Yes. Now, do you want to can you remember the story she said?
No. Very vaguely. If you start talking, I'm going to remember as you talk.
The episode was entitled Local Trash Syndrome. Does that ring a bell?
I do remember.
Doug Parkinson was in town with from Sydney, from Sydney. Important to stress that he's from Sydney, and he was here with his full band playing at the Space Theatre at Festival Centre. And within his band, which is quite large, full horn section, the whole lot, and he had two backing vocalists, two women backing vocalists, and an agency who was doing a campaign for the Advertiser, Adelaide Advertiser, was got wind. The agency for them got wind that these two Sydney backing vocalists were in town, and said, "Let's hire some real singers."
Yep.
Anyway, I don't know if anyone would recall the actual ad, but it went a bit like this. It's an 11-second grab. Oh, open up to us. And it had a picture of a newspaper unfurling.
Ah, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, that was the campaign.
Yes.
Not rocket science, not a big thing.
No.
Anyway, they had spent 3 hours with the two Sydney backing vocalists. Sydney backing vocalists.
Sorry, just to point out, there was air quotes there.
Yes, air quote, Sydney backing vocalists. Yep. I don't even know their names. But I get this phone call at 4 o'clock. Sounding very urgent. Catherine, are you busy? Are you busy? I'm like, no, I'm just at home hanging. It's an emergency. Can you come straight in? And I'm like, sure, I'll be there in 5 minutes. Looked like I was. I hopped in the car and popped up there and had to listen to what the track was and said, that doesn't sound too good. So another girl, Lou, who's a brilliant rock singer here in Adelaide back then. I'm not sure where she is now, but she might have moved east, who knows. Anyway, so Lou and I did this thing, half an hour, knocked off all the versions, tops and tails, every kind of style, every different kind of dynamic, it was a snack. It was a really easy thing. And then I happened to be in the reception area with the owner of the studio, Brian, well-known guy about town in the studio business. Brian Braidwood was his full name, that's right. I'm sure some would remember him. And as it turns out, the client came in, the advertising agency client, and the advertiser who was the client, and the producer, and they come out of the studio having listened to the vocals and the recording. Everyone's patting each other on the back and congratulating each other on how wonderful and what a great idea it was, and you're great, no, you're great, no, you're great. And then the advertising agency rep, who shall remain nameless, said, "See, that's what you get when you hire real singers." And with that, they left, and I turned to Brian and said, what was that about? And he said, "Oh, we didn't tell them that we had to get Adelaide singers in to fix it." And I said, "Well, that's a bit unfair. I'm sitting right here. Yeah. I've just done the vocal. They should be patting me on the back like they're patting each other on the back." And I said, that's not very fair. And Brian Braidwood turned to me and in a very solemn and sincere voice said, "Welcome to the world of local trash syndrome. If it comes from Sydney, it's better. If it comes from Melbourne, it's better." Even though they wouldn't know if it hit him in the face, what was actually better. And the truth was that Lou and I nailed that thing in 5 minutes, and it took them hours, and they still couldn't extract it from other singers. But because they were from Sydney, they must have been better.
Yeah.
So case in point, is that I have flown the South Australian banner ever since.
So how did you meet Catherine Lambert? Because, hang on, there's another name being dropped.
Oh, well done. Well, you've also got Doug Mulray.
And Doug Mulray. And I mentioned John Schumann earlier.
You did.
Recently departed Doug Mulray too.
Oh, I thought just
Catherine's
John Schumann.
fine, John Schumann's fine,
okay,
as far as we know.
All right.
I went to Catherine for singing lessons.
Right. And you attended?
Yeah, well, that's when she told me the story. I'll take all the royalties out of our theme song now. Thank you, Stephen.
No, I think we're even. I think. So, Catherine, other stories from the street? I can't remember any specifically. We used to just come up with people we'd bumped into and share a little piece of love. I remember one. Her name was Peter, and she used to be a big honcho with the Adelaide Fringe, and I bumped into her. She was now living half the year in Edinburgh, and Brett Monten made a confession. He'd never been to a Fringe show.
That's right. I do remember saying that.
So it was a bit wobbly there for a moment, but you soon got your credibility back.
I had the visa eyes upon me.
You did. You've been to the Fringe?
I've been to the Fringe, not for years, but I was just thinking, Catherine Lambert saying it must have been mid-80s. There was an SA Great promotion put out, and it doesn't sound right to call it a jingle, But the promo song, SA Great, it's worth the effort. SA Great, you know that it's true.
Were they the actual lyrics?
Something about SA Great.
It's
something
worth
starts
the
with
effort?
you.
Really?
Yeah, go to YouTube and go SA Great. And it was Catherine Lambert singing.
Winners are important. They make us all feel proud. They show us that achievement makes you stand out from the crowd. But we can all be winners if we all care enough for the seeds of this greatness are inside each one of us. You can be the Curly of the office. You can be the Kale of the line. Doesn't matter what you do, just do your best. You'll see it's true. The seeds of this greatness are in every one of us. SA Great, it's worth the effort. SA Great, you know that it's true. And you know that SA Greatness starts with you.
Everybody can be an achiever. If you did your job a little better today than you did yesterday, you've done something to help make SA great. Put all our achievements together and there's no telling how great this state can be.
Doesn't matter what you do, just do your best. You'll see it's true. The seeds of SA greatness are in every one of us. SA great, it's worth the effort. SA great, you know that it's true. And you know that SA greatness starts with you. And you know that SA greatness starts with you.
Wow.
I think the voiceover was Brendan Whittle on that one.
So if you can be a curler in the office, is that what she said?
Curly.
Curly,
As in Neil
Curly. Yeah.
So in the office, if you're going to play a game of footy or cricket, you could be him.
That's a lot of interpretation from that one line.
Yeah.
And also that last bit, you and I exchanged a look. It sounded like she was saying, if you're a little bit less of a loser today than you were yesterday.
yeah, SA Great. If you put in a bit of effort,
come on, sunshine, pull up those socks.
Yeah. But I think I couldn't see that. But was that the old SA Great?
Yeah, the old
typical logo we know from the day. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
really interesting thing. It's worth the effort. It doesn't seem like the strongest line possible,
does it?
It's like the brainstorming towards the end of the day. Everyone was polarised on other things and they took them off the table and went with one that sort of snuck past.
Come on, sunshine.
Yeah.
Well, was this, I'm not sure about the timing, but was this just after we lost the Grand Prix? Maybe, though, it was trying to be placatory and saying, come on, you're not that much of a loser.
Well, we had, State Bank, when was that, 87?
No, that was about 90.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, that there was labelled as 1990, but whether that's quite accurate, I'm not sure. But it's certainly not, because the other one that comes up is it's Keith Conlon. They don't have Fritz in Sydney. They've never tried a Woody's lemonade. And I think that's the State Bank building. So that was rebuilding from there, wasn't it?
The State Bank implosion was actually 1991.
There you go.
So this predates that. Maybe someone knew what was coming. Maybe it was a cry for help for our politicians.
Or maybe they ignored it. So John Bannon and Tim Marcus Clark are sitting there listening to it. It's worth the effort. They go, it's not.
Yeah. What else could they have? Anyone got a quick substitute for SA Great?
It's
heaps good, mate. Oh, no, it's been done. Never work. No,
SA Great, it's a load of bollocks. SA Great.
It's not that bad.
Well, I was getting more SA Great. It's not quite Sydney, but we don't care. That's. It just seems like a mild
It
pitch.
does. I
It's
agree
a
with you.
mild pitch. However, there is something I like about it. It's a naivety that someone had the vision that if we all just pulled together, we could arrive at a happier place.
It would have been different if they had the Sydney class acts coming in to do the pitch, rather than just the Adelaide Trash doing it.
But it's the kind of ad that it wouldn't wash. Same with television promos. They won't work anymore like they used to.
Look, part of it is the cynicism. We're too cynical for that. But at the heart of that, the DNA of that message, I'm quite aligned with. That if we all just do well, we can make our state float. You know, we all give a little polish and the tug will rise. But if... I'm not quite sure.
I'm just wondering where that saying came from.
Or if you'd rather give a little tug.
And we all...
And the polish all right.
Yes, all hands on deck. But there is a nice spirit about it. Maybe we should... No one's got advertising money to spend on playing that. This will be probably the last time that's ever played in public domain. That's an Adelaide Yesterdays. Thanks, Colin.
I'm David Washington, editor of In Daily, and you're listening to another boring Thursday night in Adelaide. And keep listening, or have your visa revoked.
The Adelaide Visa Council. This was one of the early segments that we came up with, and it was because on Twitter, which I used to use a lot.
You don't so much now, do you?
I'm hardly there. Are you Twit, Brett?
I am, but I haven't got the blue check, though.
No, it's not worth $8 a month.
No.
What is that in Australian? Probably about $14 Australian.
No, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, have you got a blue check?
No.
Not last time you checked?
No.
Okay.
I'll check again.
But you twit quite a bit, don't you? Tweet.
Yeah. Sometimes I tweet and delete because you put it out there and you think it's valid for, like, even yourself, you feel, that's a valid comment for the next 10 seconds, and then you think it doesn't need to be there beyond that. So I sometimes tweet and delete.
Now, don't take this the wrong way. I'm a little sad that you do that.
Oh.
And do you know why?
Why was that?
You're like a mini Plato to me.
Oh.
Now, imagine if Plato, many years ago, or even Socrates, uttered a thought and then deleted it. We'd be impoverished. We would not have the body of philosophical work that we have if they were just tweeting and deleting back in the day.
Maybe that's what happened to the Library of Alexandria. Plato thought, geez, I shouldn't have put that out there.
Delete.
I mean, I sometimes I think, well, is it me retracting before someone tells me to, or is it, do you know what I mean? Because sometimes, the way people pile on and...
I do that a lot. I'm more Facebooky.
Yeah.
But with comments and things like that, I put some real zingers out there, and then before I hit enter, it's backspace.
Yeah.
I think some people are going to misinterpret it.
Yep.
Some people may actually be offended with that. Doesn't matter so much if they're offended by it, but some people may be, if they misinterpret it, they may be hurt by what I'm actually saying, where it's meant to be in jest. And then I look at the comment in total and think it's not really worth it.
Yep, that's my fundamentally. I think that's where I sit with when I do tweet and delete. Is it worth the effort? You're often trying to be lighthearted. Someone's going to get offended. Sometimes you don't care, and sometimes when I do hit enter, it is because I go, I don't care.
I want you to be offended.
Or if you're offended by that, we'll have a good hard look at yourself because I mean, and you.
That reminds me of the Christmas card you sent me last year.
Yes, I sent you a mirror and told you to have a good hard look at yourself, didn't I?
Shove that up your chimney.
But sometimes I think we do need to be careful. You don't want to be willy-nilly offending people, but at the same time, there are people who are just offended because I'm sure that's how they were born. And the danger is getting to a point where you feel as if you can't say anything because someone's going to be upset by it. And sometimes I think we've got to just go, well, someone's going to be upset, let them deal with that. I saw there's a meme going around recently where, it says, I'm not responsible for your triggers. And I think that's basically true. I think the thing is that I don't want to deliberately and unnecessarily offend someone with something that is just offensive for the sake of being offensive.
There's a part of abrogation of responsibility in that statement, though,
Yes,
isn't there?
yes,
saying,
absolutely.
I'm not responsible for your triggers. It's saying, I don't really care what I say, which isn't...
It's not the...
I'm not on board with that.
That's right, absolutely. That's what I mean. It's a case of you shouldn't fear putting something out there because we're not doing it to be nasty. But, I mean, I always read my tweets a second time before I hit enter.
Do you really?
I do. And sometimes I laugh even more heartily the second time. Sometimes I show them to someone else who's around the place and I get a look of, how's that funny? And I am determined that, well, no, I believe it is, so let's give it a crack. And no one likes it.
Wow.
No one, So, but I've laughed, and that's.
Well, if you think about if your value isn't served by the number of likes you get, if it's that I've said what I want to say,
absolutely, yeah,
then tick.
Yep. I mean, I'm happy if someone gets a giggle. And because it's not about the likes. I mean, I don't use a metric of, that's made 10 people laugh or 50 people. I just, quite often, I mean, and it maybe doesn't sound right, but if I've made myself laugh, that's the key to what I've done. That sounds very indulgent, though.
That's the essence of a good dad joke.
Yeah.
Do you think that was the same for Plato and Socrates? Did they
give me one of their jokes? I'll tell you. But I find great joy in finding something funny, and it doesn't matter sometimes if no one else does, because something's just tickled your fancy, and it is wonderful if you do get to share it with someone. But if someone doesn't get the joke, that doesn't make me back off. I think that's fine. Move on.
All right. Here's a new segment: tweet or delete. As Plato, if you had just tweeted this, prepared to tweet it,
right?
Would you push tweet or delete? Ready? Opinion is the medium between knowledge and ignorance.
I think it's suitably vague to be tweetable.
Yeah.
If a man neglects education, he walks lame to the end of his life. Would you tweet that?
Sounds a bit preachy.
All men are by nature equal, made all of the same earth by one workman.
I don't understand that one.
Here's the last one. Tweet or delete. It's not going as well as I thought it might. Books give a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and life to everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good.
That's a great one.
That was a good one, wasn't it?
It's a good saying. I mean, they're not necessarily...
They're not zingers.
Tweets. Yeah, and you'd start to think if someone just tweeted that stuff over and over, then they're not really doing it for a discussion, which is what the tweets are often about.
Yes.
Here's my thought. What do you think?
Yeah.
Here's my thought. I'm on to the next thing now.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm just going to tweet that on the Adelaide Show podcast without any context, if I can.
See, I like sharing the fun of, because this is totally not from me originally, but I'll present it as if it's me in the picture. I was walking through Rundle Mall the other day, and a man said to me, "Why are you walking like that?" And I said, "I'm a businessman." And he said, "Businessmen don't walk like that." And I said, "You don't know my business." So yeah.
Wow.
See, now, if you waited for likes on that, you perhaps wouldn't get them, and that's the other thing too.
It's a slow burn.
That is. Bill Shorten could take a lesson.
If you read it, it's different to if you speak it. That's the other thing with, whether it's funny tweets, serious tweets.
Remind me before we wrap up.
Don't put that in there.
No, it's in there.
No, it's not worth putting in.
Oh, no, we've tweeted.
Yeah.
You can't delete. Now,
you must remember that we don't get final say on the editing.
No, I do remember, because I remember the time I slipped out of my mouth, "Who brang the beer?" instead of
a whole episode,
instead of "Who brought the beer?"
Yeah.
And I have
I remember that.
I've thought about that for the past decade. That's haunted me internally. No one else cares, but that has haunted me.
I've actually made Facebook comments based on that.
Yeah, I think I've seen, but it's for whatever reason, and I've got a fairly good grasp of English, but "Who brang the beer?" came out of my mouth.
Well, who brang that up?
Well,
the reason
just shows how stupid English language is, doesn't it?
But it can be. Here's the thing. In case you never listened in the early days, I'm talking to the listener now, not you two. The Adelaide Visa Council, we'd listen to people on Twitter who mentioned the term Adelaide and boring and judge whether they were being positive or negative, and we would cancel their Adelaide visa if they were naughty or grant them one if they were good.
And there was plenty, wasn't there? There was plenty to go from.
It wasn't always Twitter. I do remember a certain episode with Paul Kelly in the Visa Council.
And what was the social channel? Oh, for the song.
Yeah.
Adelaide. The song called Adelaide.
And I'm pretty sure that wasn't taken from Twitter, but he was highlighted as, do we need to consider... And now he's got a lane named after him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheek.
They didn't talk to us about that.
No.
Anyway, we have one to deliberate on today.
Oh.
And it was from Facebook.
How long has it been since the Visa Council has sat?
9 years, 8.5 years.
There we go.
So here we go. I think I've got the stamp.
Chair is still warm.
Oh.
And robes.
Oh, that's right, yes.
So this is a Facebook post posted by Craig Mitchell, a Uniting Church minister who, by the way, was on our first...
Paul Kelly, sorry.
Oh, Paul Kelly, yes, ding the celebrity bell.
Okay.
Craig Mitchell, Uniting Church minister, he was in our first Christmas episode called A Nigel Before Christmas. Anyway, that's by episode 17, if you're interested. He's in Melbourne now.
Look it up, it's a cracker.
Only if you pull both ends. He's in Melbourne now, and he quoted this. Me, that's Craig.
That's him.
Talking to the oven repair guy today. Me. This is interesting. Me. We've been over in Adelaide buying a house we'll eventually retire in. Him. Being the oven repair guy. Right. Adelaide would be a great place to retire. Me. We like it a lot. We like Melbourne too, of course. Him. I was born in Adelaide. Me. Really? Him. Yeah, but I had to get out of there. It was dead boring. Me. ... Now, here's the question for the Adelaide Visa Council. A, does the plumber or the oven repair guy need to have a visa rejected? That's the first thing. Secondly, was Craig Mitchell's reaction to him lukewarm, impoverished and passive? Could he have done more? Was it neglectful? And thirdly, did Craig Mitchell need to share this piece in the first place, the sum total of which was to cast nasturtiums upon this place? So,
before we get into that, my snigger or snort before was it's an affectation people have of going, here are the options, A, B and 3.
What did I just do?
A, B and thirdly.
Did I really?
I wasn't listening.
Well, there was something else, Brett, that we were listening to today where you discovered you had a problem in your life and you confessed it. And you were noticing how bad you were having this affliction many times a day. And then you exorcised it from your life.
Exorcised or exorcised?
Exorcised. Okay. Do you remember what it was? What?
No.
It was adding as well to the end of sentences. And you were on a bandwagon for that for weeks, almost as long as it took to do the theme song.
Right.
So that's one of the things you did as well.
Now it's yeah.
Oh, is that the new thing you say?
Yeah, double yeah.
Oh, do you remember when we talked about yeah, nah?
Oh, yes, nah. Yeah.
Yeah, nah.
Yeah, nah.
Yeah. Anyway, back to this. So, A, the oven repair guy, do we think he deserves his visa revoked?
Absolutely.
Is he asking for one?
No, that's beside the point.
That's right.
He's got one because he was born here, but he needs it revoked.
Born here.
Unprovoked.
He's unprovoked.
Unprovoked. He could have left it that, it'd be a great place to retire. He could have full stop there and lived happily ever after.
That's the thing, isn't it? People often have to...
why go
on and they have to, like, not just say something, they have to then add stuff that...
Put a negative.
It's like, why do you need to go, you retire to Adelaide. It's not, but... Or Melbourne's okay, but... It's and almost like people who are in Adelaide often feel the need to defend not just say, what's wrong with Adelaide, or there's nothing wrong with Adelaide. They have to fill in the gaps of what's right with Adelaide. Like, you don't need to.
So, what's your verdict, Colin?
Unless he can fix ramping at the hospitals, do something with the e-scooters, please, because they're just strewn across the... I mean, can we do that as a segment one time?
We can.
Because they're I mean, you can't tell me they're for exercise benefit because, you hop on them, you're not doing your exercise.
I'm detecting a little bit of whataboutism here, Colin.
Yeah, there is a bit.
Well, the question was, and let me restate,
but
what about
that's right,
the oven repair guy? Yes
the oven
or no?
repair guy. Oh, look, part of me thinks...
no, Colin, yes or no?
Yes or no? Oh,
this reminds me.
That's the way it used to be, wasn't it? There was no. But what about if? I used to go in for the hard. No, take it off him. But
All
then
right.
I sort of think, is that?
I thought that
too
was
harsh?
your answer.
Oh, look, he doesn't really want one, so he's not fussed. Take it away.
Take it away, Brett.
Nah, he's out.
See, that's how you do it, Colin. Just so you know.
I think we used to have these arguments last time.
And I also agree. Rip it off him. He's never coming back. Next was B, Craig Mitchell's response. He's just had this oven repairman say, had to get out of there, dead boring, and the best he could muster was ... which I guess in the real world would have been just standing there.
Yeah, is that when people go silent and
Yes.
like they're indicating in the
It's
tweet
like
or the Facebook
The cartoons
post?
you see, you hear them go blink,
Yeah.
blink.
And it's like nothing's coming.
Is to say nothing as bad as piling on and saying something nasty?
Do you want discussion or do you want me to go yes or no?
I don't think we get any choice with you. It's always discussion.
I mean, I think sometimes what's the point? What's the point in trying to change people? But at the same time, if it's worth defending, it's worth defending. Is this worth defending? No.
Oh, so what are you saying? What's your decision for Craig Mitchell? Should he have a visa revoked? Should he get a warning?
Or should he have put in the effort like Catherine Lambert sang in that song? He must have made the decision that it wasn't worth the effort. So
he failed on the grounds of the 1990 theme song, South Australia, it's worth the effort. Obviously not.
I don't know if he failed. Well, I don't
think
know whether
he did.
He failed in...
There was no effort there.
Oh.
But he is a priest or a minister, so maybe he was being the peacemaker.
Was he South Australian?
He was turning the other cheek.
Because he was from here, wasn't he?
No, because he was talking about moving here, wasn't he?
Yeah, was it back to Adelaide?
I used to work with him here in Adelaide, but I don't know if he was born here or whether he was originally from an alien
that's
place.
often the case.
He carries himself maybe a little bit like he's not from here.
Oh.
Although they lived in Adelaide Hills for many, many years. Enough to be Adelaidean and enough to know better, you see. He knew better. Was he turning the other cheek? And should you turn a cheek to an oven repairman?
Well, he might have been charged more for the call-out if he had started a conversation.
What price patriotism?
Well, that's right.
Colin, what's your verdict? Don't rush.
Was he a nice chap? You knew
Craig is a
Now,
nice
what you heard then, listeners, was ...
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I just remember I used to, give him the old hard line, nah, get him out. And then I used to think, well, what harm is it? It's only Adelaide. I mean, because people often do that thing where don't tell everybody how great Adelaide is.
Yes.
Or people say Adelaide's a hole. And people go, yeah, it is, to keep them all out. So there's that as well.
So, Colin, at the risk of repeating myself...
He can have his visa before you even finish that sentence. Yes.
Oh, wow. A premature ruling.
He can keep his...
Brett.
A premature adjudication, I think, is what you're looking for.
That's right. What do you think?
Well, let me expand on this.
Oh, please do.
The ... could have been inconclusive. It may not have been the whole conversation. There may have been something afterwards said or thought that he didn't include in that tweet.
Yes.
So to his defence, I'll give him a point. If he has lived here in Adelaide and he's in Melbourne and they're looking to come back, I would also give him a point. So on the balance of that, I would say that the ... is inconclusive. The ellipsis is inconclusive. and he should retain his visa.
How come?
And what had you said, Brett, Colin?
I can't remember. I was wondering how come Brett can do that and I'm not.
Because I thought, Brett, it's novel that he has one chance at doing
true. And I enjoyed listening to
that.
that.
And you said he could keep it.
Yes.
I remember now.
Yes.
And look, I think I was about to put the black cloth over his head and chop it off. However, I like your counsel there, Brett, and so you've warmed me to the middle, not, you know what I mean, and I'm going to commute that sentence. So at the moment, all things being equal, he gets a pardon. That was for B. So we've done A and B. Now 3, should Craig have even shared this story in the first place?
And that's a good point.
See, there's an inflammatory aspect to sharing a story that didn't need to be shared. This is a bit like tweet or delete. What do you, at the risk, because we've got half an hour, Colin, your deliberation.
People often say, I'm just throwing this out into the void.
Yes.
But how much of a void is it when you know there are people in that void?
Oh, so you're not talking about what you're saying. You're talking about... I was going to say, calling the listenership of the Adelaide Show a void is a little harsh.
Yes. But
anyway.
So we obviously put things out there because we mean to put things out there.
Yes.
We don't do it accidentally. I mean, I've never accidentally tweeted something. So...
I think he's sneaking one in.
Yeah.
He's giving us a backhanded insult. I think...
Well, the fact that there's no positive, in Adelaide's favour, resolution to his discussion there with the oven man, because that would have been a thumbs-up promo for Adelaide.
Yes.
You know, I've converted this...
Yes.
Never mind converting to religion, we've converted this oven cleaner to... What is he? Oven
repairman.
Oven repairman to Adelaideism. But that's not the case. So therefore, what was the question?
On with this aspect of the case, number 3.
Should he have put it out there?
Should he have put it out there? And is that enough to warrant having it ripped off him?
People of the cloth are often putting it out there when they shouldn't be.
Yes.
So, no, look,
what would be
look, he's probably just, I was going to say he's probably just having a laugh. But is he? He might be. Is he a stirrer?
What do you think? How would you How would you distill that to a yes or no?
I would. To put it concisely.
Yes.
I would.
With no beating about the bush.
Yeah. Look, I would say there's no reason unless that had a happy ending,
which it didn't.
Then I wouldn't have bothered.
So rip it off.
Rip it off,
Brett.
I think he's positioning that tweet.
Or Facebook post
as the ... is, I can't actually believe people think like this. I think it was in favour of Adelaide, in shock or disbelief of the oven repairman. People still think like that, really.
So you're letting him off.
I'm actually giving him a tick.
Okay, this is one of those rare situations where I have to make the ruling decision.
It's rare?
Well, it was rare. Was that fairly rare?
Okay. Yes. I do agree with Brett, by the way.
You can't. No, you just
because we often go ... when you just throw your hands in the air. And
so, what's your revised position then, Colin?
So this is about his visa.
This is about his visa.
It's been a long time. I'm trying to keep up.
Okay. I wonder why it's been a long time. Have a crack. Have a crack, Colin.
Have a crack.
Should he have shared this? What's the net outcome of sharing a story like this? Now, Brett's seen it in a positive way.
Yeah, Brett's interpretation is a good one that can actually turn the whole thing around.
Did it turn your whole thing around?
To err on the side of
love,
of love and acceptance and understanding, and all creatures great and small.
Yes.
No, I would, because I said to Brett not long ago that Brett often gives me things to think about.
Yes, he does.
I might think one thing and Brett gives me, well, what about this? I said
did
that
say to you once,
on a comment.
Did Brett give you one? And you said yes, many times an episode.
That's right.
So you're on his side.
So
now.
I'm
okay.
Yep.
I don't have any ruling decision to make. Craig Mitchell, you are safe with your visa. Be warned. I'm just going to add a little warning hand on his shoulder. That's all. And that is the Adelaide Visa Council.
Hi, this is Mark Damchef from Adelaide Tweet. I love the Adelaide Show and hearing about what's happening all around town.
Interviews. We didn't always do interviews, but we started doing some. We worked up this way that we could have a Skype phone call come in, and we had the Polywaffle lady.
Cutting edge in 2011, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was no Teams or...
No.
2014, yeah. It was very early, very early. We foretold COVID and the rise of Zoom.
Oh, yes.
By doing this.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant we predicted it.
No, wouldn't that be great? I can insert stuff back in those episodes. We could actually let's pre-record one thing now, which will insert one in.
See, I reckon in about 9 years' time, there's going to be some kind of pandemic. There's going to be some huge disease happening.
What do you think that will cause in society, Brett? What do you think the symptoms of that disease will be?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see the effect on people. Like we take our current working life and our current way of living, going down to the pub, going into the office for granted. If there's some kind of communicable disease, which means we shouldn't be in the same space, we should be distancing, for instance. Imagine how that would turn the world on its head. Imagine not being able to get on a plane. Imagining not being able to go down to the pub, have a meal with your friends. Imagine being restricted to your home.
The more you say that, the more I think this could happen. Colin, what do you think?
Well, I was giving that some thought the other day because I just thought, something's bound to happen. Once every 100 years, I think, something's bound to crop up. And I thought, what about people turning on each other? I reckon people will start turning on each other based on it's all a hoax, it's all nonsense, it's the government trying to control you. What a load of nonsense. Don't be a sheep. We don't need to do this. I think
sheeple. There's a good term.
That's right. There's the new term. And I mean, the two new terms in the last 10 years, sheeple and Karen.
Do you reckon that's what's in our future?
I think so. So
right.
you mark my
what's
words. A Karen's one of those, and this isn't me saying.
No.
This is Karen's. I think it stemmed from there's a particular kind of haircut for a Karen, and it's one that you want to go back and speak to the manager about. You know those people?
Ah, okay. So
now I'm not quite sure why they were called Karen in particular, but it's someone who whinges and moans and always demands that something's wrong or
why you think they might be called that. Many years hence.
That's right.
That'll never happen.
No,
it'll never happen.
No, probably not. It's probably just me just going on.
Too discriminatory.
And probably Bunnings would be one of the safest places. They would never erupt there. It would never come to blows.
That's right.
In that field. Well, interesting. We'll see if that pans out, Brett.
But you know what? I reckon if people continue in the next decade, if you wash your hands properly and often enough, if we all do that, I reckon we'll not have any issues with. What do they call them? Pandemics or something?
Yes, that's worth. See, this is why people
wash
listen.
Your hands.
This is why people listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
And how long should you wash your hands for? As long as it takes to sing the theme song, which in a few episodes from now, Brett will have perfected for our podcast.
That's right.
It's on its way.
Okay, now we'll insert that in episode 1. So that bit will go back. But right now, interviews, I just wanted to note a couple. Annabelle Crabb. We had a chat with Annabelle Crabb in the early days of the podcast. She was a bright spark.
She's from Two Wells, I think. Two Wells? She grew up, family still has property there, I believe.
Right. I knew it was a market garden-y sort of farming background.
That's right. She's an old market gardener.
Because I called her, I think in the interview, a former Adelaidean. And she said, you can't be a former Adelaidean. You're either an Adelaidean or you're not an Adelaidean.
She gets a visa.
She gets a visa?
Straight away.
Okay, there you go. See, Craig Mitchell, take a note. Hello, Annabelle.
G'day there. Nice to be with you, Steve.
Thank you. Look, it did strike me as interesting to hear our tourism minister be so forthright in saying, we're the government and we say this. We don't tend to see a lot of it these days, do we? We tend to see very massaged comments, at least the things that make it through to the final news bulletins. Is that behaviour rare these days, do you think, that forthrightness?
Oh, yeah. Look, I think that there is a great inability in politics to deliver bad news, frankly. I think all of the message massaging technology and skills that politicians have amassed over the last few decades mean that it's actually really rare to see politicians standing up in front of a group of people who are about to be either slightly or considerably disadvantaged by the decision that they've just made and saying, well, you know what? Cop it sweet. You know, it's just a sort of an old-fashioned way to behave. When everybody last week was kind of reminiscing about Whitlam and talking about all the things that the Whitlam government had delivered to Australia, you know, free education, end of conscription and that sort of stuff, I thought, you know, one of the things, one of the stories about Whitlam that I remember reading a year or two ago in a book of essays that really kind of made me think was an event that the Fairfax journalist Jeff Kitney recalled. Kitney was a journalist for the Perth News in 1974 when Whitlam came to town, having just announced that he was going to abolish superphosphate subsidies for farmers across Australia. And he went to address a rally of farmers who were really, you know, up in arms to a mutinous and violent degree. And he stepped up, you know, onto the back of a truck and to address this crowd. And instead of trying to sort of mollify them or to make them feel better or say, look, you know, here's what else I can do for you, he really laid into them and he said, look, you know, the fact that you're here today bludging when you should be working, you know, you've down tools, you're obviously not doing it that tough if you've got enough time to, you know, slouch into town to throw tomatoes at me. You know, you're overprivileged, and the rest of Australia will be looking at you today and realising what people do when something that they're not entitled to is taken away from them. And I was just like, eye-poppingly kind of, it was just such effrontery, you know.
I'd actually almost call that reverse spin.
Well, it's anti-spin, you know. It's cop this. It's like one up in the block hole. It's a Yorker. I mean, it's just yeah. And you don't really see that all that often. I mean, it's increasingly in the rear vision mirror now. But I mean, remember in '97 when John Howard enacted the gun law reforms, and he went to a rally in Sale of gun owners. And remember, it was one where he wore a bulletproof vest, a decision which he subsequently regretted because it looked as though, you know, he was sort of expecting to be shot. I don't think that really helped. But, you know, it is a really big call, I think, for a politician to make a difficult decision, to convey it to a group of sort of stakeholders, as we now know them, openly, and saying, yes, look, you know, this is going to disadvantage you and there's no kind of way of prettying that up.
And the other one we had, which was quite a coup, because Martin Hamilton Smith, who was at one point the leader of the Liberal Party.
Opposition, yeah.
And he switched sides. Do you remember this?
Yes.
He became independent 2 months after the 2014 election. He served as the Minister for Investment and Trade, Minister for Defence Industries and Minister for Veterans Affairs in the Wetherill Labor Cabinet. So he didn't join the ALP, but as an independent.
Yeah.
Because I reckon that was a pretty tight election and they needed numbers to make up. He decided to throw his lot in, and as a result, Wetherill stayed in power. That's my recollection.
On the Adelaide Oval then, just the idea, did you know that there was this kind of secret negotiation that the AFL and the SANFL and cricket were up to? Were you across that?
I don't think that secret negotiation had started at that point. I gave a speech to the press club in 2007 and flagged this and said, football's got to come into the city, we need a standalone covered stadium down where the hospital's now being built, let's do it. And the debate started. Now, I was attacked from everywhere for that. Everyone disagreed with me, and even football didn't get on board with the idea for a host of reasons. And the government at the time said, no, it's staying at Westlakes, wrote a cheque to football, said we want to keep it at Westlakes. It became a point of difference, but it was an idea whose time had come. And after about a year, I think it gathered so much momentum. That's when I think the secret negotiations started. And of course, that all resulted in the end with the idea of doing it at Adelaide Oval, which frankly I'd always identified as being quite a viable option. It's just that none of us thought that cricket and football would agree. Well, to their credit, thanks to the wonderful Ian McLaughlin and with the help of John Olsen and their respective boards, they did get it together, and haven't we got a fantastic result? So,
that's the question I was going to ask next, is what do you reckon? What do you think of it?
I reckon, firstly, you can get a result from opposition if you're brave enough to have a bold idea. But secondly, sometimes it's a good idea for both sides of politics to actually recognise a good idea when it comes along and work together to make it a reality. You know, I just think what we've got there is absolutely transformational. It'll be there now forever, and it has changed Adelaide forever, and I just think that's a wonderful thing. And if stirring the pot back then as opposition leader helped get us there, well, it's all been worthwhile. And I give the current government some credit for having, rather than just continuing to oppose, actually at the end of the day saying, you know what, Hamilton Smith might have a point, let's do something about it. And that's a credit to the likes of Pat Colin and Kevin Foley and a few other people who ultimately got the thing on the drawing board.
Although it does challenge my memory, because I remember on the very first game day earlier this year, I reckon there was about 35 people out there claiming credit for the Adelaide Oval.
Yeah, well, look, and they probably all deserve it too, because you know, what I did may have just got the ball rolling, but it was really thanks to the efforts of people like Ian McLaughlin and Lee Wicker and the football and cricket people who actually, together with the government, sat down and worked it out.
He was never in Adelaide Council. Was he ever running?
Not that I'm aware of. Doesn't
those
mention
names
anything
that, you know, Lord Mayor. Not sure.
We did have Stephen Yarwood on in the podcast, so that was very good. And Bob Francis. We interviewed Bob. Oh, there we go. Yes, this should have a tinkling sound. Bob Francis in relation.
Oh, hang on.
Because
right now.
Oh, you've removed my little ding. Because he was the man who was here as the MC when the Beatles came to Adelaide.
That's right.
Oh, Beatles. That's by
three of them
association.
The Beatles brought in a style of music that was easy to listen to. John Lennon, Paul McCartney have now been remembered and are being remembered as two of the greatest songwriters that have ever lived.
Okay. Bob Francis that we knew in 2013, last year, if One Direction came to town, let's imagine they whipped up the frenzy. They had half the population turn out to see them, including people taking time off work, like my dearly departed uncle who never missed a day of work in his life except for the one day the Beatles were in town. How would you have reacted in your talkback show, Bob? Would you have been empathetic, or would you have let rip at the lazy people taking a day off work?
No, I think I would have let rip at the fact that the change that has come from the difference in society of the 300,000 people that turned up to see the Beatles, where they threw rose petals on the road all the way down Anzac Highway, whereas today, if they attracted a crowd like that, some would throw a rock or a tin of paint or do something like that would make me turn around and say, you bunch of...
You just remind me, in the press conference, I managed to find a recording of the press conference that you held with the Beatles at Adelaide.
Yeah.
And John Lennon at the end was asked a question about, do you feel safe in the open sports car going down Anzac Highway? And he said, look, you are a bit exposed out there. You just never know. I mean, you could get shot.
I remember that, and years later he did.
Yeah, exactly. Years later. I mean, that's just...
But a different sort of atmosphere, wasn't it? I mean, he was just coming back from a show and went home, and somebody was out the front and chapped and thought, I think I'd like to be a star, so he killed him.
With that one, that would have been fairly fresh with JFK, wouldn't it? That would have been front of mind with him.
Yeah, there could have been that, I suppose. But do you ask a question like that, and do you feel safe? And something like that has happened. I guess they're going to bring that up as a point to make.
One thing that also struck me, Bob, is obviously, I mean, I worked with you at 5AA years and years ago. I've listened to you, most of Adelaide has, and there is a definite Bob Francis style that you developed. Do you know what struck me as I was listening to audio of that Beatles concert?
Right.
Right at the beginning, as you took the microphone to set up the night, there were a few times when you had to stop and say, look, shush, shush. Now, we're not going to be like the mobs over. Was that Bob Francis' character all the way through? Or did that role you play forge the Bob Francis who got used to taming crowds and callers in years to come?
That's interesting. I've never thought about it that way, but I've listened back to that recording of me being so high-pitched in my voice and trying to be nice to everybody and saying, don't jump on the stage and be good boys and girls and all that sort of stuff. I mean, today if I walked out, I'd just say, shut up. And that's the way I'd treat the crowd, and I'm sure they'd quieten down just as much as me saying, please be nice, boys and girls.
Ringo was unwell? Was it Ringo? He had tonsillitis, appendicitis, something.
It can't be botheritis, I think.
Oh, yes.
Yes, what would have been a hard day.
He's out.
Yeah.
He's not in the visa council.
No, that's right. In fact, did he not come to the Adelaide tour?
No, it was...
we should rip his visa off him.
It was the other one.
Is Ringo Starr still alive? Because you can't take their visa away.
I think Ringo had a birthday not long ago.
You got the Rolling Stones, who have a singer and a guitarist, and you have the Beatles, who have a bass player and a drummer, make an ageing supergroup.
What would you call them? The Rolling Beatles? The Dung Beatles?
And Jimmy Nicol was the...
Sisyphus.
Sisyphus?
The Beatles...
The Supergram.
Rolling the stone up the hill.
Yes.
And back down again.
Sisyphus. That's great. And you can cure that these days.
I think it was Jimmy Nicol took the place of Ringo.
Jimmy Nicol.
He went far, didn't he? He obviously wasn't star quality. Thank you very much.
If he's still alive, we should give him a visa. Because he made it.
Yeah.
Jimmy Nicol. See if he's on Twitter. You're the twit, Colin.
Okay.
Jimmy. Anyway, anyone else we interviewed that, remember, we had the young... journalist in Mexico. We interviewed her once about her. Oh, that was the episode of Geezer in My Backyard.
Okay.
Because she went to see some geezer. Is there someone you remember that we chatted to?
I can't remember her name, and I'm sure you will. There was a lady who was in the adult entertainment industry within Adelaide, and she was Chloe?
Grace.
Yes,
who's no longer with us.
Yes, that's right. And she had... But there was related people who we've had on as well, I think, in that circle, yes.
Yeah, we have. And they were always fascinating interviews.
They were. I love
because
them.
you don't get to talk about that in polite society normally.
Because you're often too busy
to
talk.
And especially they shush you when you're at the Roma Theatre and you're talking about it, don't they?
Right. And Chloe Rescue-Maguire?
Oh, Chloe Rescue-Maguire, yes.
She
was involved with one of the social media
things?
Yelp. I think she was involved with Yelp in the early days.
And we had I think she was from Melbourne, but she was performing in Adelaide, and we went to see her. And Lucy, that's right, Lucy, fondly known as Lucy.
Yes.
And we also spoke to Gillian Hicks.
Oh, did we? Jill Hicks.
And recently it was the anniversary of the London terrorist bombings.
It was too.
And we had Jill on, didn't we?
Lucy Gransbury.
That's right, Gransbury.
Right. We also had Caitlin Harvey.
Yes.
She was she did the food tours.
She did the walking tours through Adelaide. And I went on one of those and recorded a chat with her.
You found your way back?
I did. Full as a goog. I was full as a goog.
I've been on a couple of them. They were awesome.
Yes. Oh, that reminds me. Just before we have a look at the musical pilgrimage and reflect on who we're going to play, I thought I'd better give Brett advance notice.
5 minutes advance notice, thanks very much.
I liked some of the titles we gave our episodes over the years. See if any of these ring any bells. Adelaide Undressed. What the heck did we talk?
Maslins?
There might have been Maslins, actually. Surreal Adelaide. It was an artist. I think it was an artist who does a lot of surreal paintings. The Adelaide Pie Floater First Birthday. Remember we went to Villies?
Villies, yes, right.
The original Villies.
Yes.
And they made us very welcome, gave us a big table. I think the pie floaters were on the house.
And I had never had one before going there.
We helped you with a lot of firsts. We got you to the Fringe. You had your first pie floater. What else did we line you
you're an
up
old
with?
WA boy. Are you a young WA boy, aren't you, Brett?
No. Born, bred in Adelaide.
Oh, you were? But then you went
grew
to...
up in Karratha.
Yeah.
Then back in Adelaide.
Oh, I must have known about the Adelaide start. And then you...
Adelaide, city of cars and donuts. I remember what that was.
That was
Holden's? Krispy Kreme coming to Adelaide. And I think we might have also had Stephen Yarwood on in that episode.
What's the car bit?
Because he was all about bikes when he was the Lord Mayor.
Frame Street.
Yes. Don Dunstan and Gay Adelaide was an episode, because we love our Don.
So, the one with the cars and donuts, that was, I've forgotten his name already.
Stephen Yarwood.
Stephen Yarwood, and he was the Lord Mayor. So he was on talking about town bikes.
Yes. Deconstructing the Adelaide Yo-Yo Biscuit. We gave it a whole episode.
That's right, and we sang the...
Oh, that's when we sang
That's when we sang it.
But it probably started with deconstructing. No. What's it got in it? Well...
Yeah.
Oh, and then, yes...
butter, eggs, milk and honey.
That's right. Biscuits delicious.
Filling up the dishes. And it's Yo-Yo Biscuits.
Goodness, what a biscuit. There we go.
My goodness. I was trying to be non-religious here. You have just triggered in me. You know the theme that, speaking of themes, theme that I did for Barista?
Yes.
My goodness, what a biscuit. That's real coffee. I have just made that neural link.
So do you reckon subliminally that was what was going on?
Absolutely. And 10 years later, I've just realised it.
Wow. Of your own handiwork. That's amazing. So that's the third thing we've helped you with. Rip the top off, Colin. Colin's going to open one of his bottles of fizzy water.
Oh, he's just spilled on the floor.
Now, Colin, I was actually hoping you might help me with this one. Colin.
Yes.
What did we talk about in the episode called The Adelaide Ring Monopoly? I mean, I'm opening this to Brett as well.
Sorry, I thought you were addressing Colin.
Now, if you Google these, do they come up... Like if you just go to Google and type in the Adelaide Ring Monopoly...
I wonder what comes up. DuckDuckGo.
Use your DuckDuckGo browser and your DuckDuckGo searcher.
Secret handshakes.
Let's see. The Adelaide Ring Monopoly. All right, let's see what comes up on Google. Our episode is... Everett Brooks. The jeweller. We interviewed a jeweller.
I was wondering if it was a jeweller.
That's where we got our wedding rings done.
Is
Everett
it really?
Brooks. Oh. That might be why we went to Everett Brooks, because Rachel and I, handmade her wedding ring at Everett Brooks.
Handmade like Highbank wines? You plunged the gold?
We did most of that, yes.
Oh. At least you'd know you would get the right... Because often when you buy a ring, you have to have it resized, but if you did it your way there...
Interesting
it's
aside,
perfect.
Her diamond broke.
Oh.
That's exactly...
The diamond broke?
That's exactly the reaction I had.
My diamond brooch.
Oh. Hello. How does a diamond break?
Exactly. Apparently, if you hit it, it might have had a flaw that we didn't see, but I thought you would look at a diamond and see any flaws. And she must have hit it somewhere on something in a particular angle. The diamond itself broke. We've just recently, through insurance, had it replaced.
Oh.
And it wasn't a small diamond.
You can't erudite it together?
You could, but that may set a precedent for the rest of your marriage if you did that.
Oh, true. She wasn't trying to open glass windows with it, was she? Wow. Yes, apparently Adelaide was about to have its first Monopoly board that year. And so we combined...
I remember the picture with a photograph of us with the Monopoly board.
Exactly.
I don't remember. So the ring bit was about the jewellers?
Yes.
All right.
See what I cleverly did? The Adelaide Ring Monopoly.
The Monopoly bit I do remember, yes.
And of course, Adelaide Ring, many people think of Adelaide in those terms. 3 small amusements.
Well,
that was a self-reference.
Yeah.
Weren't we being modest?
Were we? Was that what it was about?
I don't know. I just like that title.
Oh, okay.
I think
I don't remember the episode.
If we had a male review show,
they could call it. Oh, it was cabaret, wasn't it?
Yes, we could call ourselves 3 small amusements.
If it was cold, yes.
If it was cold. Put the heaters on, it costs more. There's a geezer in my backyard, I've already mentioned. I love this. Lucy on the Skype with diamonds. That's when we interviewed Lucy
Gransbury, wasn't it? Yes.
I thought that was an inspired title.
Yeah, that's quite good.
And it references the Beatles too.
Yeah.
Obliquely. Of Kings and Wangs. That's Wang Wang and Fooney.
Well, I was going to say was because you haven't brought it up.
And
remember the
pageant.
pandas?
Yes.
Yeah, the pageant.
Was that where you had to crawl up through the...
Well, you were up in Fooney by yourself.
You said get close and personal with the pandas in the thing, and so I spent the whole bloody show up the panda.
That now. Yeah.
I was driving with my family today, and we listened to episode 11 called Plucker's Corner. As well.
Yes.
That was when you talked about As Well. And Plucker's Corner was Prospect Road and
Fitzroy
Terrace. Colin would see a woman plucking herself every day. She plucked her eyebrows. Her chin. She plucked her neck, he said.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, there you go.
And she's still there. You know the way people at traffic lights...
That's right. I do remember the
squeeze things and...
You Are God's Toilet was another episode we had. And that's because when my cousin and I went to a pageant one year, on the way back, this weird religious group were handing out pamphlets that said, You Are God's Toilet. Now that is, I think, weird, but more persuasive than South Australia. It's worth the effort. I think if we said, We Are Australia's Toilet...
I'd prefer we were an envirocycle. God's envirocycle.
Oh, that's
so at least we're doing some good. You know?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Take it up a notch.
Yeah, we had a whole episode called
We talked about Coroma toilets and Adelaide coming up with the dual flush as well.
We did.
It's one of the news bits.
That was one of my neighbours. That was the story. The lady across the road from me, where I used to live, her husband worked for Coroma and invented the dual flush. And I think the manager stole the patent.
Wow.
Allegedly.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you for that. And we didn't know how long that interview should be. Half the show or the whole show.
That's right. And how much waste would be left over.
Got two more to go. Look at my freckle. What a wonderful topic.
I remember the title, but...
it would have been about the freckle donut, the freckle lollies.
Freckle, yeah.
It would have to be, wouldn't it? No one bent over during that episode. And 3 royal pigs. We recorded an episode live at the Adelaide Show. Well, we faked that we recorded live from the Adelaide Show because we were up to hijinks in our early days.
Oh, that's right, because the Pandas was the pageant.
The Pandas was the pageant.
And that one was the royal show.
Yes. There you go. There's a little
waltz. There was one episode, and it may be one of the ones where I don't remember the title, where I beamed in from China. Do you remember that?
Oh, no, I don't.
Because I sent you a recording when I was touring with Plan B.
Yeah, that's right. You were off on tour.
So it might have been during the heyday, one of those episodes.
Yeah. And you, a couple of times, patched in from Darwin.
Yes.
That's right. I remember Colin and I doing one.
Yeah.
And we all got, one of the wines we had was the Bishop.
That's right.
And so I had a bishop.
That was one of the episodes.
Yes.
I think we had 2 bishops in a row. We had a bishop twice.
Well, I had a bishop to myself in my Darwin hotel room.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
And that was the
Allegedly.
Where Colin came to visit
your place.
That was
your
ex-father-in-law's place where I was. I was
groundsman.
I was between homes. Let's say it that way.
Right. Wow. Great memories.
Big tree.
That's it. And they've since knocked down the house and the tree.
Have they? Oh.
Put up apartments or put up townhouses.
And put up a
millions and millions of dollars worth of development there.
Yeah.
Someone knows the way to get that tree knocked down.
Because, you can never do it when it's a problem, because I've got a big tree.
I bet you have.
I've heard that.
And the rigmarole you go through and you get nothing, and the tree is poorly positioned, a danger to property and life.
Wow.
Yet you cannot, because it's I think there's 2 different things. It's a significant tree, or there's another word. And it depends on how big it is, therefore how old it is.
So they won't let you touch your proud tree, but they'll let you trim your bush, won't they?
Well, small mercies and everything.
And now it's time for the musical pilgrimage.
The last thing we used to do every show apart from, say, Goodnight Don, which we should say in a moment, was the musical Pilgrimage, which from the very first episode was your idea, Brett, and you would showcase a local South Australian artist. Courtney Robb was a favourite in the early days.
She was. Well, she still is.
Yeah. So,
Courtney and Snooks now.
That's right. Tell me, who are we going to listen to on the way out? Is there a song we played in the early days that you'd love to give a rerun to? Or is there someone fresh or something you've made that you'd like to use as our farewell song?
You got something to plug?
For this 10th anniversary episode.
Well, without preparation...
that's the best
thanks
way.
For that. If I was going to relive favourites, the Bearded Gypsy Band were definitely there. Also, Bill.
Bill. Okay, let's have a look.
Played at our wedding.
William. Who had that band, the trio, Bill Parton.
Bill Parton Trio.
Thank you. Let's take that 30 seconds out.
No. It's the good bit.
Also, Bill Parton.
Yes.
Remember, and I'd forgotten about this until this second, I was actually in one of his video clips for Lurker Man.
You were a creepy person from the Roma cinema. You really were.
But unfortunately, I wasn't as creepy as the other guy. Yes. I only got like 2 seconds in the whole video clip.
But it was just enough. Interestingly,
is that like police CCTV that was shown? And
very grainy.
People had to...
Very Dave Grainy.
Yeah.
The Bearded Gypsy Band, we played Hungarian Holiday, which was in the Don Dunstan Gay Adelaide episode, number 39. But yeah, William Parton...
What an amazing recall you have, Steve.
It just comes all over me.
Let's ask him, Steve, the episode where...
No, Colin, you started it now.
Yes.
Finish your sentence.
I should have done some research.
You should have.
Yeah.
And so Bill Parton, who else springs to mind? Who shall choose one? Don't be like Colin in the Adelaide Visa Council. I want you to be decisive.
I think that's a little unfair to Colin. I really appreciate Colin's insights and thought process.
I do.
Thank you, Brett.
I love it. I love it. I just love the building pressure and anxiety as we wait for the final answer and we think it's about to come and then, oh no, it's off to the side street.
Well, you know.
Have you got a favourite song? You might be faster, Colin, that we played.
Oh, that we've played?
Oh, that we've played. Sorry, I was trying to think of a new one.
No, it can be a new one. I don't mind. Dino Jag wishes us all the best for our upcoming teenage years, he said.
We've had Tom Lyon on the show, haven't we?
We have, yes. He's short.
Is he?
But he packs a punch.
And I believe he's married to Jessica Braithwaite, who does the weather on 9 News, and she sings as well and has a song or two out.
I wonder if weathering a marriage girl, marrying a weather girl is good for your relationship. If you can say, what's today going to be like? And she say, well, I'm going to be a bit frosty tonight.
Oh, I thought you meant she could put out your clothes in the morning.
Oh.
What's appropriate? And
Colin, Brett.
Yeah, this is Brett.
Yes, hello. Give us a song. And I love seeing you, because I know you do rise under pressure very well. Because Brett, in one of the episodes, talked about going to Kangaroo Island and he would do his busking singing at the markets. And I remember episode 1, you gave it a plug because you said the Kangaroo Island ferry had a special on. You drove over and back in the day to go to the markets, and it was only $36. And then he said he was going to be performing at the markets, and we said, how much do you get paid? And he said, well, the stallholders chip in, they cover his cost of the ferry, so $36. And then we said, how many stallholders are there? He said, 36. So and then we were wanting people to pay you with carrots. I can't remember the rationale for that, but throw a carrot to Brett is what we were saying. However, I did this by way of giving you time to think.
Yeah, it hasn't helped, sorry. But I do appreciate the effort.
That's right.
I would go, my very favourite of all time,
yes,
Ben Searcy.
Ooh.
About the bushfires.
I was just, while you were thinking, I was thinking the Wangaree. Was it the Wangaree bushfires?
That's the one.
And then funny, you came up with Ben Searcy, and I thought...
Wow.
So, because I was going to say.
We've got television common.
Yeah, we have.
Yes, you are both in the same zone.
It
And
was
I
called
reckon
Wangaree. Yep.
It is called Wangaree, isn't it? And now we did play another song of his, though, called House Rabbit Blues, if you
That was
remember.
awesome, yes. I do remember. I remembered it just as you started talking about it, yeah.
But Wangaree was the one for the bushfires.
That was a very moving one. And I think I actually remember the episode I was talking about it. It took me over 4 listens. I got a different impression of the song every listen, and each impression, each listen got deeper and deeper, and that's what it's about. That's what it's about. So by the time I got to the final listen, not that I haven't listened to it since, I was just blown away by the impact of that song. And then later I talked to Ben, or we talked to Ben, may have been on the podcast, I can't remember, and he actually explained it and where it all came from. And he was a photographer, I think.
That's right, yes.
Of the fires.
Yeah, so let's have a listen to it now.
I'm gonna leave this town and I'm never coming back. What was once so beautiful has all turned to black. I'm gonna leave this town and I'm never coming back. All I have left here now is the skin falling off my back. And I know not coming back. Tuesday morning, 9 a.m., the embers march to attack. Grab the photos and don't take long, the sky is turning black. Chuck the kids in the back of the van and don't you dare look back. Head off down Highway 1, the never-ending track. And I know not coming back. Came that day, the embers did attack. And then the good wind came and blew the fury back. My house still stands, my friends, but my neighbors are all black. I thanked the Lord right then, but now I take it back. And I know not coming back. Smoke is clearing now, the flashing lights blink back. Big commotion on the UHF at the end of our dusty track. You won't pick up my calls, you will not call me back. I saved the house, my love, but I'll burn it to bring you back. And I know not coming back.
Let's do our good night, Don, because we'd say good night to Don Dunstan every episode. Do you remember where that came from, that concept?
Well, was he a notional Adelaide Queen?
He was. Oh, yes.
Don't start rumours now.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Well, in the first couple of episodes, we would toast Queen Adelaide and Don Dunstan together.
Yeah.
And then we split them apart. So we'd toast our late patron Queen Adelaide and we'd save Don to the end.
He would come still alive when we started?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think he'd been recently deceased. I shook his hand once.
Well, I hope he was.
Yeah, it was before, not after.
Yes. I was at Adelaide Uni doing a workshop. Here we go. He was premier a couple of times round, actually. And I'm just trying to remember, when did he pass?
Was it 2005?
No, I think it was 1999. I think it was the 6th of February.
What a recall you have.
That's the thing. Of course, he was born, interestingly enough, in September of 1926.
Why is that interesting?
Well, what a long life.
So it's not just something you read and thought, I'm going to espouse my intelligence.
Well, if you think about it, 26 was just ahead of the Great Depression. And then in 99, we had the Depression brought about by the State Bank of South Australia. So there, he was bookended by Depressionism.
There's a bow I can see, and it's really, really long.
Actually, 1926, his birth would be correct because I was invited to his
birthday party
70th, which was 1996. So yes, and I was. I'm not just saying that for. I think a lot of people were invited.
Put a lot more credence in what you're saying than what Stephen is reading out of Wikipedia.
Yep. I could probably drag out the invitation, but a lot of people were invited, so it wasn't. I mean, I'm not.
Did you go?
No.
Oh, you stood up our premier.
I did. I stood up Don Dunstan. Can you say it like that? Can you say that? I stood up Don Dunstan.
Well, one thing we're talking of Don.
Like a panda.
Do you remember we had a special night? We went to Don Violi, the hairdresser.
Yes. We talked about Stobie Poles.
Stobie Poles. He had Don Dunstan at toast or bless his Stobie Pole.
Yes.
Remember that? He had the Adam and Eve painting on his Stobie Pole.
And the artist was...
Very famous.
Very famous. That artist.
Yes.
Went on to big things.
He did.
More Stobie
Clifton Pugh. Clifton Pugh.
Note to our listeners, Wikipedia was not involved in that comment from Stephen. He actually remembered it.
I reached for it. I had it in my hand, and then it came. Like, it just, boom, Clifton Pugh.
Has anyone ever... Like, people contact the show... yes, is that
It's not just you, is it?
It is.
Dear Diary. But has anyone ever written in and said, what are you lot on about?
No one's ever been that rude.
No, good. Because Adelaide people wouldn't.
A couple of Twitter people had tit for tat when we had told them that they'd lost their Adelaide visas. In fact, we had one guy grovel to us and got the visa back because he grovelled superbly well in the early days. He was the head of the Adelaide soccer team's cheer squad.
That's right. That rings a bell.
And suddenly he found he lost his visa, then he did everything good to get it back. There you go. All right. So all that's left for us to say is good night, Don.
Sorry, did we ever get to the bottom of why we did that?
Oh, sorry.
I remember I used to do it at the end of, we'd all do, and then I'd... Good night, Don. I don't know whether
It might have just been
It may have just been an off the cuff...
Wow.
Because we had talked about, because we did feature a book about Don Dunstan.
We did.
And it may have come from that, I'm not sure. It may have just been because of Don and his influence in South Australia.
And your guilt for standing him up.
That's right.
At his 70th.
I'm going to go along with that. I think it was Colin's invention.
Yeah, I may have done. I'm happy to take the...
And I've grabbed that and kept it going because I really liked it. And Brett, the thing you brought was when we'd say... To the Queen, and all who sail in her. That was your line, which Nigel Dobson kept going for a while.
Thanks, Nigel.
So you all have a little legacy that lives on. In closing, it was such an important little part of my life to make this thing happen. So thank you both for being there. It was a lifesaver in more ways than you could ever know. And it has since exposed me and us when we were there together to so many different people and different stories we would never have had, and enabled me to teach my daughters a lesson that when you're prepared to stick your head above the turret and do something a bit expressive, yes, people can shout at you, but it can open doors and it can give you a bigger glimpse of the world than just sitting back.
Well, thank you for inviting us back. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Steve. I mean, it's
thoroughly enjoyed it.
10 years. I remember when you were Butch.
Hello.
But no, it's been good. All that reminiscing, and because I deliberately didn't prepare for.
Good. I'm glad
today. I mean, I wondered. I thought, should I look? And I thought, no. Let's just see what comes of it.
Would have ruined the flow, I think.
Yes, I love a candid Colin. It's a land of sweeping plains.
That's like the old "you can" on a cannon. Can do.
You can. Anyway, thank you. Would you like to say good night to Don, Colin?
Good night, Don.
The Adelaide Show podcast is produced by my dad, Steve Davis. If you want to start a podcast or get some help producing creative content, talk to him. Visit stevedavis.com.au. Thanks, AJ. I'm Caitlin Davis, and I agree with everything my sister said. But there's one more thing to say. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave a rating or a review, because that will make my dad really happy. Oh, and one more thing. If you really, really liked it, please help a friend put the Adelaide Show on their phone. Thanks for listening. Buzz, buzz, I'm a bee.
Adelaide, Adelaide.